Welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're joined with Simone Simons. Did I say that right?
Yeah, the Dutchies would pronounce it as Simone Simons, but I go with
Simone
Simmons
Simons.
is fine.
Okay, perfect. How are you doing today, Simone?
I'm great. You're the first of a couple of interviews today, so you got me nice and fresh.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been cool because I've been a fan of you guys. Oh my God, since you guys, I'm going to relate it to a single instead of the album. So you guys released Unleashed, which was like, I think 2007 on that record. And I remember that was kind of when YouTube was still somewhat newer, and I was scouring like, I don't know, metalcore YouTube. And then that was a big single that I saw that kind of got recommended to me. And I was like, this is different. And that was actually the first time, even before like listening to like Nightwish or like Within Temptation or any of that, I ever heard symphony in metal. Was like way back when. And something, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show too, because obviously Epica has been going along for how many years now? 25 or something along that?
23 right now. Yeah, we'll have a 25th anniversary in 2027.
Congratulations, by the way. That's a long time. Like,
That's a long time. Yeah. I'm feeling a little bit like a grandma in metal, but no. No,
no.
it's actually, I mean, it went by so fast, but it's actually quite a long time. It's more than half of my life, basically.
Jeez. How old were you when you actually got into the band?
17.
Jeez. And was it just like right away, like album, tour, and like this is life now? Or did it take a second to kind of ramp up?
No, Epic has been my school, university, yeah, all in one. It was basically record a demo, then record a CD, and start touring. So already went to Mexico with the guys at the age of 18. So I got
Wow.
to travel the world at a young age.
Mm-hmm. And something I was really curious about too, because obviously you guys are, you know, like technically a Dutch band. I know members are from various places, but like that area, when I was younger and I started to learn more about like symphonic metal and again a few of the bands in there, what is it about the Dutchland and also Finnish area where like y'all just really fuck with orchestra and you know your symphony in many ways? Like, is that something that's very common around there? Like, why is there so many bands when there's symphonic metal that kind of come from that area?
Yeah, that's a question I've tried to answer many times, and I don't know the true answer to that. All I know is I think we have a lot to thank for the gathering,
Hmm.
and after that, of course, Nightwish came, and I love the gathering. I love Nightwish, both completely different bands, but yeah, I think overall those bands inspired many other artists to kind of explore that music side. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I always joke that I say it's in the water, or I
Right.
don't know, it's in the air,
Mhm.
fresh air. And
Right. Is it something too like because I don't even come from America. Coming from Canada, in school we have like orchestra class even when like you're in middle school or something like that. Like when going to school, is it very prominent where you have like classical music everywhere? Like do you have to take classes related to like I don't know picking up instrument, violin, cello, and stuff like that in over there?
No, actually not. No, of course, in primary school, it's kind of obligatory to play the flute. You get music
So just the flute
education.
specifically.
Yeah, that's kind of what I learned, the normal flute,
Okay.
and then I started exploring. In Dutch, we say the blokfluit. It's like the straight one like this, and but then I played the dwarsfluit. I don't know the English word for it.
Okay.
In German, it's querflöte. And from that, I kind of switched to singing lessons because back then, when I was 12, my first performance was actually in the primary school musical.
Hmm.
And my music teacher back then, she kind of gave me that push, and she said, like, I really like your voice, and you should explore it. And I think that was a very key moment in my life where, as a preteen, you look up to grown-ups a lot. You don't listen to your parents, but you listen to your teachers, and
Right. If you have
they
good
motivate
teachers,
you.
hopefully, yes.
Sorry?
If you have good teachers, hopefully, yes,
If you
exactly.
have good teachers, yeah, of course, you can discuss about what makes a good teacher, but I think
Mhm.
overall, music teachers are different to teachers that educate in other subjects.
Mhm.
They are already a little bit more like free thinking artists, and they kind of can spot out the artists to be among the kids.
Right. Do you ever go back to that school or like I know even some schools have like a renowned like oh these people you know graduated here and now they're like doing big things or they're even in obviously bands. Do you ever go back to that school or like talk to those teachers ever?
No, I did actually wanted to meet up with this particular teacher. And my high school, they had some kind of reunion or 100-year existence of the school, my high school, and they
Hmm.
invited me, but at the time I couldn't travel because I was highly pregnant.
Oh.
Otherwise, I would have loved to pay a visit. I just, whenever I'm in my hometown, I drive around and I pass by the school, and I always would like to have a little peek inside, but so far I didn't manage.
Hmm. That's so cool. Yeah. So you guys have to learn the flute. That's such a specific instrument. Is there any
Mhm.
reason why the flute besides like, because I know in most places it's like, oh God, there's orchestra and then there's brass. I think it's called like brass where it's like all of the like flute, trombone, saxophone and that kind of stuff. So it's just the flute specifically.
Yeah, I guess it's an easy way to enter into the music and to learn how to read a music sheet.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's actually kind of a good thing to learn for me, at least, because with singing, you work with breathing.
Right, right.
You get a little bit of both. And I have no recollection anymore of how it sounded in the class, but I can imagine it must have been interesting.
That's, I,
But
I
my
remember.
first
Yeah.
thing what I wanted to do before actually becoming a singer was to play the piccolo, and that's a very specific small
Oh,
flute with
yes.
very high frequencies. And in order to do that, I first had to do another advanced flute a couple years before I could continue to that. But my
Hmm.
flute teacher was actually not a very pleasant person, and I quit
Oh,
and I switched to singing.
okay, that makes sense. Do you have obviously Epica has been going on for so long and you guys have so much orchestra elements. Are the flute moments, do you take those over or do you guys still like outsource and hire people when it comes to all the orchestra and all that?
Yes, yes, we hire the professionals. I do not
Okay.
see myself as a professional flute player. I do still have my old flute somewhere in the basement, and I actually tried to play Cry for the Moon on the flute to see if I could
Oh wow.
somehow figure out the notes, if it would work. But yeah, I would have to really kind of dive deeper into that. But we
Hmm.
work with a very talented, I don't know if you say flute player, flutist,
Hmm.
and he does a way better job than
Hmm.
me. So
I got you.
I'll
Okay.
gladly pass on the flute to him.
I hope the flute becomes bigger. It's an unloved instrument as much in the modern age. Actually, someone in chat mentioned there's a band. I don't know if you listen to much like hardcore punk and that stuff. There's a band Speed where they had a really big song where it was a flute being played during like this like kind of it's almost like a pseudo hardcore punky breakdown, which got very popular because you don't expect when these guys are acting all kind of just like modern and like tough and then a dude just pulls out
Mhm.
a flute out of nowhere and you're like that's different. That's different.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual, but it fits. You would normally think it would be more connected with folk metal. There it would sound
Hmm.
maybe more natural, or you would expect it. But we did a EP called The Alchemy Project, where we also worked with a talented musician who plays also the saxophone, Jürgen from Shining, and that was already quite experimental for us to do that, to add a saxophone into
Right.
a metal song, but I think it worked really well. Nice
Saxophone.
element of surprise.
That's one of, I feel like out of all the orchestra instruments, maybe besides obviously like just like simple strings, that's something that's happening a lot more over here on the American side where I think because it's like there's a lot of modern music that sounds a bit more weirdly like I don't know vibey and kind of chill where you're hearing a lot of saxophone. I mean I don't know if you listen to the band Sleep Token. Obviously they're a band that
I
like
do.
they
I recently got into Sleep Token. I enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
yeah, they are not shy of the saxophone, and it's everywhere now. Where it's almost like it's used in America more like memey, but it sounds so good every time, and it's something that in modern metal it's cool. There's a lot of fusion happening, obviously, where there's like very, very, very heavy music, and then there's these like instruments that you wouldn't expect to be utilized, like a saxophone or a flute, and it's cool to hear that kind of all blend. And I mean, I guess I'd love your opinion too. Like back in the 2000s, right when Epica was going, symphony, growling, blast beats, all this stuff. I know there was bands like you said mentioned before, like Nightwish, and then sorry, the other band that you said kind of like started it all way back when. But like, was that a thing in Europe specifically that was like still new? Because in America, I know that was a thing that took a long time to kind of reach over there, where people were like orchestra and metal, like what? Where's it's just guitars, drums, and that's it, and screaming vocals, like what was the vibe I guess in the 2000s in Europe when it came to like symphony and utilizing all that stuff?
Yeah, you could say it was maybe more European or European bands,
Mm,
but in Latin America, it's a very popular metal
mm,
stream. And I think in America, we've toured America a couple of times, but I don't know, for some reason, it's not that popular, like you said. I don't know why that is,
mm.
but overall, I mean, we're very happy that we get to tour the whole world and we have fans all over the world.
Right.
And sometimes, with some countries, it just takes a little longer to warm up to. And it also depends on the bands touring there, of course, and
Yeah.
offering the music over there. So it's a couple of factors that are, connected to that. I can't really
Mm.
put my finger on it as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of bands now too that are using symphony besides that because I was same thing with me. Like when I grew up, I listened to symphony. I'm assuming I correlate it instantly with like Europe. I'm like this band is somehow it's very symphonic. It's coming somehow there. Nowadays, it's
Mm.
cool to see a lot of these modern, very like heavy bands, like deathcore bands even. Every other deathcore band, which I don't know how much often you might listen to like kind of that stuff at least, but like every band is laced with symphony. Now, to be fair, it's not very nice, like natural orchestra symphony. It's usually like plugins and whatnot, and like choir and operatic vocals kind of have happening with like these very very brutal moments, and it's becoming more and more popular. Like I don't know, bands like Lorna Shore and Disembodied Tyrant, like these bands that are very American based that are kind of starting to blow up with that. Is that something that you see on the European side, that influence finally kind of bleeding over into America when it comes to even that, or even like again like Epica in low key or like Nightwish and all that stuff finally kind of reaching its way to the influence of like modern metal bands at least over here.
I think, metal is very versatile. You can mix up many different styles and it kind of works together. As long as the songs are good, it doesn't matter
Mm,
if the melodies are good, you can mix it up with anything. And I personally love the combination of the orchestra, the choir, the classical music
mm,
with the metal songs. I mean, Epic is a very dynamic band. We have many songs that are kind of like cinematic movie scores,
yeah,
and then we have ballads, and it's a little bit of everything, and it's very dynamic where you can have the most peaceful, serene, ethereal pieces, and then it goes into this brutal death metal riff, and
yeah,
it's all in Epica, and that's also what I love
mm,
about Epica. And there's some countries where it's just more popular than other countries, and yeah, that's just a matter
mm,
of luck and being at the right place at the right time, being picked up by a record company, the good PR management, all of that
yeah,
comes into play as well, whether something is popular. And the strength of Epica is, I think that we toured a lot in the early days before the internet.
yeah.
So we kind of reached a very loyal, solid fan base that keeps on growing. And yeah, I think there's still room to grow even more.
Hmm. I know you mentioned like movies and all that. I know you guys did a cover EP of Attack on Titan, which is not something I expected,
Yes.
which was really
Yeah.
cool. Obviously, Attack on
Mhm.
Titan is like I beyond okay. Besides like maybe Naruto and like some like classic anime, like in terms of modern age, it's probably one of the biggest animes ever. Have you guys
Yes.
dabbled much more in like movie scoring and going much further into that, or even video games? Because obviously, video games are very cinematic nowadays too, and laced in a bunch of those elements.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know much about Attack on Titan before we got the offer, and I enjoyed the project very much. It was a lot of fun to do. The songs were brutally fast, and we had to even slow them down. They were still super fast, almost
Yeah.
no time for me to breathe. And it was a huge honor
Right.
to cover those songs. And I also love to play the songs live. We recently did the Symphonic Synergy
Oh, sick.
or 2 times 2 shows, two in Amsterdam and in Mexico City, where we played with choir and orchestra. So we could really display these songs in the best way possible. And funny enough, I have an 11-year-old son,
Mm,
and I told him when we went into some comic shop, and there was also something from Attack on Titan. And I said, yeah, mommy actually did some songs for Attack on Titan. And he
right.
was like, wow, that's so cool. He has no clue, I guess, still of what it means or
Right.
who I am or what I do. But that kind of impressed him. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I like power metal epica. I would go for a second round if that would happen one day.
Right. Right. Well, when it comes to, I guess, the day to day, I know you mentioned you have a son too. Is it like you have a very obviously crazy operatic voice? I'm assuming at this point, like music is probably always being played or singing in some capacity in your house, or like what's kind of your day to day at least nowadays?
Well, today I actually haven't sung yet. And in the past, my son gave me, I guess, weird compliments saying that you can go from complete silence into huge volumes. He was very impressed by that, but often his ears
Right.
would almost bleed. I mean, if I would sing full force, it's not nice to be in the same room, or even, me singing in the car, the sound comes back at you.
Mm.
So that's kind of something I enjoy to do whenever
Right.
I'm on a ride and I know I can't practice at home. I would then play the Epica set list of whatever special
Mm.
show we're doing. Also now the new Epica songs
Right.
from our album Spiral, I would just, connect it to my car and sing as loud as I can and just hope that nobody hears me. But if they do, I mean,
Mm.
I don't think they would mind.
Yeah. I've never
And I
seen.
hope that they would hear me actually.
Right. I don't know any operatic vocalists in real life, but I would assume it is incredibly loud. Like it's
hmm
like very compared to like most vocalists, and especially nowadays, a lot of vocalists, I think, that, of course, it's not operatic vocalists, are quieter because everyone's used to digital, and they grew up in this digital age where they're living in apartments with like their headphones, and they're like trying to, if they're learning screaming or they're learning singing, it's usually only in the shower versus like operatic vocals. I mean, I guess even for you growing up, how did you get away with learning and like executing operatic vocals, because it's such a loud instrument in itself?
Well, it had to be loud back in the day because there were no microphones and the singing need to be carried around the whole theater, so to speak.
Right.
But operatic vocals don't necessarily need to be loud. I mean, you
Mm.
can sing it very quietly as well. Um, I don't know, it's the voice is such a small instrument, but yet so powerful. And for me, the classical singing still is one of the most special ways to use your voice.
Mm.
And I've been doing it in Epica. I actually had classical singing lessons. I sang in a choir, and I enjoyed very much. But it's all about breath support. You don't
Hmm.
just use your vocal cords, you use your whole body, you engage your whole body. You need to have the right posture and the breathing, the larynx, or how do you call it, needs to be in the
Right.
right
Yeah.
position. And the resonance, it needs to go up to all the, how do you say, cavities of the nose. And
Hmm.
it's yeah, it's a wonderful instrument. I'm happy I don't need to carry many heavy flight cases with me. I have my instrument with me
Right.
all times, but I have to take extra good care of it
Mm.
because it is also fragile. It's strong and powerful, but fragile at the same time.
Right. Have you ever dabbled in screaming? Because obviously Epica has screaming, but I know that's the other person who's actually doing that usually is guitarist. Like, have you ever dabbled, because you have such a powerful voice, even out of curiosity, of being like, what if I like add some distortion here and just to see what could come out?
I don't actually know. I never had the aspiration to become a grunter or screamer or growler myself.
Hmm.
I have a very talented grunter in the band, Mark,
Right.
and he does a great job. And I focus on my strength, but I salute to all the women who can execute this vocal style really well. But I myself don't see myself doing it. I don't think it fits to me. And we have the perfect synergy between Mark and I,
Right.
and it works. It works fine. I would rather explore the classical side more than
Mm.
go into the grunting. Maybe who knows if Mark were to get sick on tour, we already had the
Mm.
some of the other guys backing him up,
Right.
Isaac, and I think Poon even did it as well. And yeah, even so we have a backup plan in case Mark would get sick, so I can still just focus on the clean
You have
singing.
backline grunters if you need. You're good to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
like backing grunters.
Backline grunt. Well, with your voice too, obviously that's been a thing where when you think of Epica, there's a lot of elements, but like obviously you think of like the vocals being this huge part of it. Like, have you ever thought even yourself of expanding or like trying, I don't know, pseudo like modern like pop esque projects just to see what to do with your voice in kind of those different ways, besides obviously using Epica as like the forefront. I know you have your solo project as well too, which is amazing. You released a track with Alyssa, which was super sick. But yeah, utilizing I guess more in that like modern pop element. Have you ever thought of expanding into that, or just like trying it out?
Well, since you mentioned it, I could experiment a lot on my solo album Vermilion,
Mm,
where I tried out more with my voice. There were in a way no limits, which
right.
made it very exciting for me to just try things. If it wouldn't work, then it doesn't work. And on the album, I even sing in Dutch and in German. I sing classical. I'm belting. I'm singing clean classical,
Mm,
the highest notes that I could squeeze out. And I learned a lot from that album recording, the creating of the album, and I could then kind of shift that also to Epica for a spiral.
mm,
I sang in a musical. It was like a rock opera musical, but that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I just love music in general. If a melody just gets me, gives me goosebumps, evokes some kind of emotion, it doesn't matter what style it is. And I think I master quite a couple of techniques, so I could kind of, sing my way through different music styles if I
right.
wanted to.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I know you keep referring to obviously classical too. Like when it comes to classical music, is that something still even nowadays? Like, will you put on like some old school classical bangers, or is it something where it's like, what's your, I guess, like, what do you listen to nowadays to kind of take you through the day?
Well, two of my current bands that I listen to a lot are Lacuna Coil. I like their new album.
Hmm.
And of
Yeah, they
course,
just
they're friends
dropped.
of mine.
Yeah,
Sorry?
they just dropped their record. We had Christina on the show,
Yes.
which was super fun. They're crazy, like talented, and it's cool to see them going too. Like they've been in a band for, I think similar. They started around a similar time, if I'm not mistaken, early
Before
2000s.
Epica even, because I remember being like a 14-year-old gothic girl going to some gothic party and they were playing a song from Lacuna Coil. I didn't know it was Lacuna Coil, but I really loved the music and the vibe. I think they're very unique.
Mhm.
Also, Christina's voice is amazing. And yeah, I became a fan of Lacuna Coil as well, and recently have been listening to their older albums and also the new album. I really like the song Wish You Were Dead.
Mhm.
I think I heard it already 100 times. The video is amazing.
Mhm.
And Sleep Token, I kind of started listening to that. Those are kind of the main metal bands I listen to. And besides that, I love to listen to Aurora as well, or listen to podcasts, or sometimes for relaxation, I like to listen to movie scores. And one of my favorite movie scores is um, The Perfume Story of a Murderer. I really like that. And that's
Okay.
also with classical music and some amazing classical singers like
Mhm.
Chen Reis. I really like her, and Melanie Metrano. And yeah, that's something I've been listening to a lot.
That's sick. This is a little random. Did you hear the new Mozart song that dropped out of nowhere after 200 centuries?
No, not yet. Not
Mozart
yet.
dropped the last year. It was a big day. He held the song for a few centuries, but it was really like a fun moment where it's like, again, even people that didn't grow up with classical music, they were like, "This is how is this possible?" But seeing like an old composer, obviously legendary, have a new song kind of uncovered was weird but very intriguing because it takes you back to their catalog, but you're like, it's weird that this is new. Like this hasn't
Mhm.
been heard. And there's probably so many composers too back in the day, like so many pieces and classical music pieces were like lost for centuries. And like I would assume like it'll be like 2050 and someone's just gonna be like, oh yeah, this is like new Beethoven. Did you hear this? Like this is absolutely crazy. But it's is it surprising for you to see how classical music has like stood the test of time kind of forever? Like it doesn't go away. It's something that even nowadays, like I said, in the modern metal scene, all these even very heavy deathcore bands, it's all classical themed music, which i
Mhm.
i didn't know. I like that shocks me growing up, from the late 90s 2000s. Is that something you ever expected, growing up and being in a symphonic based band all your life too?
No, I mean, as a teenager, I kind of was not so much into classical music,
Mm,
and my parents always had the radio running in the background. My father really loves Chopin and Brahms, and we had Sunday morning breakfast, and I thought, can you please turn this funeral music off? It's depressing. I
Right.
couldn't appreciate it back then.
Right.
And now, I mean, we even recently we did a cover of the Camille Saint-Saëns "Ghost in Me," which
Mm.
was a collaboration for a Dutch amusement park, the Efteling, and the Danse Macabre is also a very recognizable tune. A lot of people know
Mm.
it, and our version of it just made sense somehow. I think it's, as I said before, if a melody is good, it doesn't matter with which instruments is played. Well, sometimes it does, but I
Right.
mean, you can put it into any other music style. The melody is the key. It's the most
Right.
important thing. And if melody is good, it will stand the test of time.
Of course, yeah. I know you mentioned specifically instruments too. Like, how do you guys kind of balance the modern age of like everything is digital, but obviously symphony is are inherently not a digital instrument, but plugins, all of this stuff, like they're getting better. Even choir, like vocals and like God bless vocalists, they're the last ones to go. As a guitarist, I've already accepted my fate. Like the computer has taken that over. How do you guys in Epica kind of balance that? Like, okay, obviously classical instruments, but also the ease of like, hey, there's all these digital tools nowadays that a lot of people are using. How do you guys do that in Epica, at least?
Yeah, I think we use the digital tools for the demo stages of
Mm.
writing the song and kind of making a musical sketch of how we want the song to be. And we are in this luxurious position that we have the means to hire a
Right.
orchestra. And we work together with the Prague Orchestra, also for Omega. And I think mainly also for the composers of the songs within Epica to hear their compositions played with by the orchestra
Mm.
is a magical feeling. And of course, the samples nowadays have become so beautiful and realistically and give you so many options.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to incorporate in the music now if you don't have the financial support to
Right.
pay real musicians to play it, but we
Mm.
we do like to work with the orchestra and also with the choir, and yeah, I think we're very lucky that we can do that. And
Right.
same when we did the huge shows, the symphonic synergy with choir and orchestra. That to me, those are the magical moments where our music can be brought to life how it should sound. But of course, a
Mm.
normal Epica show, we cannot bring 100 people with us on stage,
Right. I was
unfortunately.
about to say, do you guys ever feel the pressure because your music is so inherently, symphonic to like almost want every show to have like all the 100 people on stage with you? Obviously, financially not viable for any band. I think even Metallica probably. Like, do you guys almost feel that pressure of like, damn, man, like I wish this was kind of here, even though like you could sure pull off a great show, but it's just a different vibe with all that happening.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a huge undertaking to set up a show like that, and we kind of save it for the special moments. And I treasure those moments where we get to do that, but it's just simply impossible. Maybe one day we can do a tour like that in some sort of way. That would be a dream come true, but
Mm.
for now we just keep it for the
Mm.
special moments
Mm.
because it's a lot of work. It takes a village to
Yeah.
create such a unique show.
Mm.
And yeah, we the last shows we did were in December in Mexico. We had also two symphonic synergies sold out,
Mm.
and even a bigger orchestra, bigger choir. And then, we haven't done any shows for a couple months. We go on tour, we go to the US beginning of May, and then we go to Mexico. And but we can't bring all our favorite orchestra choir people with us, so it's going to be
Right.
a little different, but that's how we do it 95% of the time anyway. And we
Mm.
manage to pull off a great show like that as well. But yeah,
Mm. No, yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know what it entails to create a show like that. It's
It's
insane.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, even if you had every band on the bill utilize the orchestra somehow, which then would kind of almost make it less special though. If every, if somehow you guys could be like, okay, guys, it's part of the tour crew. You know what I mean? Like everyone here, every band is going to
Hmm.
somehow utilize some of the orchestra. That's still hell to to set up and to make sure it like works, and just
Hmm.
logistical nightmare to have that many people kind of bring that to life.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's it. And I also already feel very bad for the orchestra musicians because they would have very long nights and very little sleep. They would have to work extremely hard and but the options are limitless. It's actually not a bad idea, but I don't think we could then do a 3 hour show ourselves. We would have to shorten
Yeah.
our set list just by a little bit.
Just you guys usually do 3 hour sets?
No, the Symphonic Synergy show was
Okay.
not, that was not 3 hours. I think the Classical Conspiracy, many, many moons ago, we played in Hungary during a classical music festival that took place
Hmm.
like all over the city, and it was like a week. There we first did a classical set where we did some movie score songs, some classical pieces with Epica and the orchestra. Then we had a little break, and after that we played an Epica set with the orchestra. And our 10-year anniversary show, we had a 3 hour set. And by that time
Jeez.
I was pregnant as well, and I actually don't know how I pulled it off.
Oh my
The
God.
Symphonic Synergy show was 2.5 hours without break and a couple outfit changes.
Three, yeah, three. Someone just said 3 hours is diabolical. 3 hours being pregnant too at the same. Oh my God. Like, how does that impact your voice? Like, is it just instant go to sleep after? Like, I can't even imagine a 3 hour set of like
Yeah.
operatic vocals.
I kind of crashed after that show. Yeah, I was pretty done after it, but very happy and felt very accomplished that we got to do that show. But yeah, it was a challenge, but I do like a challenge.
Yeah, fair enough. With Epica too, and this is something that surprised me. I think when I grew up listening to you guys in like my very early teens and discovering symphonic metal in general, do you see still a lot of people get shocked at how sometimes you guys can be really really heavy, and that's almost like sometimes underappreciated? Because I think a lot of people obviously hear symphonic and they're like, okay, clean singing and it's vibey and I like classical
Mhm.
music
Yeah.
instead of like you listen to a lot of tracks, even that new track you guys released, Arcana, which I was
Mhm.
like, I remember listening to the end. I was like, this is a really crazy like modern metal breakdown thrown in with screaming and obviously very beautiful like operatic elements and like atmosphere being built around that moment. Is that something that you still see a lot of people get shocked where you're like, oh wow, I went to see Epica, I didn't realize you guys were actually like brutal and kind of heavier than I expected.
Yeah, yeah, we do. Of course, the singles that we release are the songs that would appeal a larger audience.
Mhm.
But also on the new album Spiral, there are a couple of really heavy tracks, and I love all the Epica tracks. But as much as I also like to sing Disney songs and beautiful ballads, I totally love the heavier passages in our music, and it's thanks to the whole band and each band member bringing something special to the band. Our drummer and guitarist, they used to play in God Dethroned. So, but when they entered Epica, gradually we became heavier at the same time.
Right.
And I think with symphonic metal, a lot of people might think they might go into the commercial direction. They're going to become softer and more commercial, but people will hear when the Spiral comes out, they don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
They're gonna have severe neck ache from all the headbanging from the songs
Hell
that
yeah.
are.
Have you guys ever thought of doing, I know you mentioned collaborations obviously in the scoring side. Have you ever thought of collaborations on the side of like the very heavy like modern metal scene bands where again like all the, I mentioned these like deathcore bands, these crazy bands are all using orchestra. They're using operatic vocals except they're usually a choir sample in the background, sadly, you know what I mean? Have you guys ever thought of kind of blending those two worlds together and start like collaborating in those sense? Like there's a band like Baby Metal, for example, nowadays. Like they're collaborating with all the like very fun, like Electric Callboy, Bloody Wood, and all this stuff. Have you guys ever thought about being like, there's this really cool area of modern metal, symphony. Let's go see what's going on there and like collaborating in any capacity.
Yeah, I'm open for any kind of collaboration. If I like the music, I think let's go for it. We already did this EP in the pandemic time, which is called the Alchemy Project, where we worked with other music colleagues and friends in the metal scene, where we could experiment and think a little bit outside of the box. And we found out that if the song is good, it's a match, and we do like to experiment. So maybe for the future, we could do a part two and reach out to other
Right.
amazing artists in the scene. And I mean, yeah, sky's the limit. I'm open for any collaboration. If I like the song, then.
Go
That's
for
a
it.
good start.
Have you ever? I ask this almost every time now because this is a band I've been keeping an eye on too. Because they're very classical based, but they're very modern, and it's almost the best way I can describe it is classical music with dubstep sounds and guitars, which is very weird combo. I don't know if you ever heard of this like band called Mirar, but they're doing this very unique combo. Which, if you like classical music, of course, and you like classical theory, because they actually take a lot of those classical pieces and they'll even write it in kind of their descriptions of like which piece it was kind of inspired by. And yeah, chat's like, Nick, you're talking about Mirar. Yeah, of course I'm going to talk about Mirar, guys. It's very modern and cool. But anyways, if you like classical music and you like this more modern sound, that's kind of also a thing where I see a lot of people going this way too, which is also helping revive classical in modern, which again makes me excited as a musician. I listen to a lot of, not necessarily like Beethoven and like Mozart growing up, but I listen to a lot of video game soundtracks. And that is all classical 8-bit, right? It's all classical music, but it's just 8-bit. So it's cool to hear a lot of that. But yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of them, but if you want to like blow your mind with something modern and just sounds wild, Simone, right
It's
there.
called Marar or
Mirar, yes.
Marar. It's difficult to pronounce.
It is, yeah.
Okay, I can check it out. I mean, my son loves to play video games, and there's actually one. It's a VR game. It's called Astrobot.
Oh, I've never played
And
Astrobot, but I've heard it, yeah.
it's a lot of fun. And I actually just listened to the music on Spotify because I liked it so much. And he plays Minecraft, and
Of course.
the Minecraft music is very mellow and very calming and doesn't really, I don't know, fit to video games, but I like it. I don't mind
Yeah.
if it's playing in the background. But then, of course, the shooting games, I get a little anxious from those.
Right,
But
fair enough. I mean,
yeah.
I nowadays kids are. I grew up playing a lot of video games, but nowadays it's like they're playing what, Fortnite. I think that's right. Probably
Fortnite, I know as well, yeah, and all the funny dances. My son is showing them to me, and
right.
that's also one of his favorite games, Fortnite. But
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer. Oh, I think my light just died.
No, no worries.
I'm Team Mario, so give me any of
Team
the
Mario.
Mario tunes. Yeah, I'm like Team Nintendo
You guys ever
back in
thought?
the day.
Did you guys ever think about doing any Nintendo cover songs just for the fun of it?
I think I might be the only one in the band that actually likes Nintendo, or I
Okay,
think Mark also likes it.
fair.
Um, and Kun does some gaming.
All right.
Rob and our drummer Aryan, they are the ones that usually use the PlayStation in the tour bus,
Have you
and I just watch.
have you ever listened to the Castlevania soundtrack back in the day?
No, no.
That's a
I know
really good one.
Tetris
Yeah.
still,
Yes.
but yeah, I'm not a gamer. I prefer to watch movies.
Movies, fair enough. Simone, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And again, chat, a Spiral, Epica's brand new album out April 11th. Show them the love. Go listen to some beautiful symphonic moments, some crazy vocal operatic moments, melodies, as well as some really heavy moments, which even surprised me as a person where we listen to very dumb, heavy music nowadays. I was like, damn, this is very cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show and shooting the shit. I appreciate your time. And just
Thank you.
yeah, and teaching us a little bit about symphony and classical as well, because we are, we're usually listening to caveman music over here, so it's nice to broaden our horizons and expand. That's what's
Yeah,
important.
well, I would like to welcome everybody to come see us. Beginning of May, we'll go to New York, Atlanta, and LA. So maybe somebody would like to come and check out our new songs.
Go for it. Simone Epica, check out the new album, show them the love. Thank you so much for coming on the stream, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.